My
The
name
people who
is
gave you life
Sabrielle
are the
White.
same ones who
I'm
try to
24
erase it.
years
Before
old,
we
and
dive
I
in, I
live
want
with
to know
my
where you're watching
parents and
from.
younger
Have you
brother
ever
in
had
a
to fight for
small
your
house
place?
on the outskirts of Cleveland, Ohio. I have a steady job at an insurance company. The salary isn't spectacular, but it's enough to cover the electric bill, the water, the internet, and most of the household essentials. In fact, if I hadn't been handling these expenses for the past 4 years, the heater would have stopped working winters ago. My father, Caspian White, used to be a construction engineer. 3 years ago, he lost his job after what he called a workplace accident. My mother, Lyrian, works part-time at the high school library, checking out books and shelving returns for 15 hours a week. And then there's Pax, my 17-year-old brother, the only person in that house who still looked at me like I mattered. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end. That Christmas Eve, I came home after my shift with my thick coat still buttoned to my chin and the scent of coffee clinging to my sleeves. The temperature had dropped to 23 degrees, but inside our house, it wasn't much warmer. The Christmas tree stood in the corner of the living room, decorated with the same tired string lights we'd used for 3 seasons. Half of them didn't work anymore. I could smell ham cooking as I pushed through the front door. My mother stood at the stove, her shoulders hunched, her hair tied back in a loose ponytail that had seen better days. She didn't turn around when I walked in. "Hey, Mom," I said, setting my purse on the side table. "Dinner's almost ready," she replied quietly. No smile, no warmth. I glanced toward the dining room. My father was already seated at the head of the table, a glass of red wine in his hand. It wasn't his first. I could tell by the way he stared at the ceiling light fixture, like it held the answers to every question he'd never asked himself. Pax appeared from upstairs, backpack slung over one shoulder. He caught my eye and gave me a small smile. That smile was the only thing that made walking into that house bearable. "How was work?" he asked as we both moved toward the table. "Long," I said, "but I brought you something." I pulled a small wrapped box from my coat pocket, a book he'd been wanting, something about astrophysics. His face lit up. "Sabrielle, you didn't have to. Merry Christmas, Pax." He took it carefully, like it was made of glass, and tucked it under his chair. We both knew better than to make a big deal out of gifts in front of our father. Dinner started in silence. The only sounds were the scrape of silverware against plates and the faint hum of a Christmas song playing from the kitchen radio. I scooped mashed potatoes onto my plate, tried to smile at Pax, and hoped we could get through this meal without incident. I should have known better. My father's knife hit the table with a sharp crack that made me flinch. "Sabriel." I looked up. His eyes were locked on mine, bloodshot and hard. "Yes?" "You're a burden," he said. His voice was low and steady, like he'd been practicing the words. "And you can't live here anymore." The room went silent. Even the radio seemed to quiet. I stared at him, my fork frozen halfway to my mouth, convinced I'd misheard him. My mother let out a strange, dry laugh, panicked, almost desperate, like she was trying to convince herself this was a joke. But my father's face didn't change. "What did you just say?" I asked slowly, setting my fork down. "You heard me," he said. "You've been here long enough. This is my house, and I'm saying enough is enough. You need to move out." I felt Pax stiffen beside me. His fork clattered onto his plate. He stared at our father like he was looking at a stranger. "Dad, what are you talking about?" Pax's voice cracked. "It's Christmas Eve." "Stay out of this," my father snapped, not even looking at him. I took a slow breath, trying to steady the sudden rush of heat flooding my chest. I could feel my hands trembling, so I placed them flat on the table. "I don't understand," I said. "I haven't stayed here because I needed a place to live. I stayed because you needed me." My father's jaw tightened. "We don't need you." "Really?" The word came out sharper than I intended. "Who's been paying the electric bill for the past 4 years? The water? The internet you're watching TV on right now?" "That doesn't give you the right to act like you own this place," he said, his voice rising. "You think because you pay a few bills you can look down on me? On your own father?" I felt something shift in my chest. Not sadness, not even anger. Just a cold, dawning clarity. This wasn't about the bills. This wasn't about me at all. This was about him, about his pride, about the fact that his 24-year-old daughter had become the breadwinner of a household he could no longer control. "If you want me gone," I said quietly, "I'll leave." My mother's head snapped up. "Sabriel, wait!" "I've made my decision, Lyrian." My father cut her off, still staring at me. There was a flicker of something in his eyes, maybe guilt, maybe triumph, but it disappeared as quickly as it came. Pax looked between us, his face pale. "If they can kick her out this easily," he said, his voice trembling, "who's next?" No one answered him. I pushed my chair back and stood. My plate was still half full, but I'd lost my appetite 3 sentences ago. "Fine," I said. "But you should understand something. When I walk out that door, so does everything I've been paying for." My father's smirk faltered. I picked up my plate, carried it to the sink, and set it down carefully. My hands were still shaking, but I refused to let them see me cry.
My
Before
name
I
is Renata
left the
Martinez,
kitchen,
and
I
this is the
turned
story
to
of how I learned that
Pax.
sometimes the
He was
people who gave
staring
you
at me
life are
with
the same
wide,
ones
frightened
who try to
eyes.
erase it.
I gave him a small nod. He was the only person left in that house I cared about. Then I walked upstairs without looking back. I closed my bedroom door and stood there for a moment, listening to the muffled voices downstairs. My mother was saying something in a low, pleading tone. My father's responses were clipped and sharp. I didn't care anymore. I pulled my suitcase out from under the bed and opened my closet. One by one, I folded my clothes and packed them away. Every shirt I'd bought with overtime pay, every pair of jeans I'd saved up for, every piece of this life I'd built while holding theirs together. This room had been my refuge, the one place where I could close the door and pretend I had control over something. Tonight, it was just a box I was leaving behind. A soft knock came at the door. "Sabriel?" Pax's voice was barely a whisper. I walked over and opened it. He stepped inside, his shoulders hunched like he was bracing against a cold wind. "Are you really leaving?" he asked. I nodded. "Where are you going to go?" "I'll stay with Ainsley for a few days," I said. Ainsley Rodriguez was a co-worker, one of the few people at the office I trusted. She'd offered her couch more than once when I'd mentioned how tense things were at home. "I've been saving. I'll find my own place." "And then what?" Pax's voice was shaking. "What happens to me?" I sat down on the bed and pulled him down next to me. "You're going to be fine. 6 more months, and you'll be 18. Then you can leave too." "But what about the bills?" he asked. "What about the electricity, the internet? You know they can't afford it." "I know," I said softly. "But I can't keep doing this, Pax. I can't live my whole life as a walking wallet. I deserve to breathe too." He was silent for a long moment. Then he whispered, "I want to come with you." My heart broke a little. "You can't," I said gently. "Not yet. You're still in school. You're still a minor. But I promise you the second you turn 18, I'll help you get out, okay?" He nodded slowly, but I could see the fear in his eyes. He knew what staying here meant. He'd be alone with them, with their blame, their dysfunction, their slow unraveling. "You'll still text me, right?" he asked. "Every day," I promised. He stood up and gave me a quick, awkward hug. Then he left without another word. I continued packing. When I was done, I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop for the last time in this house. I logged into every account, every utility portal, every subscription service. First Energy Electric Company. I clicked into the payment settings and removed my credit card. Then I scheduled the autopay cancellation for December 26th, tomorrow. I wanted them to have one last day of power. One last day to figure out what they'd lost. City of Cleveland Water and Sewage. Same process. Card removed. Autopay canceled. Spectrum Internet and cable. Gone. Dominion Energy. Natural gas. Done. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. All linked to my account. All gone. My mother's phone plan. I'd been paying the automatic reload for 2 years. Canceled. It took less than 10 minutes to dismantle 4 years of financial support. My hands trembled as I clicked the final confirmation button. Not from regret. From something else. Relief, maybe. Or grief. I closed the laptop and looked around the room one last time. There was a picture on my dresser. Me, Pax, and our parents at a summer barbecue 6 years ago. We were all smiling. My father had his arm around my shoulders. My mother was laughing at something Pax had said. I left the picture where it was. By 12:15 a.m., I was carrying my suitcase down the stairs. The house was dark except for the glow of the television in the living room. I could hear the voices of some late-night Christmas movie. No one came to see me off. No one called my name. No one said they were sorry. I opened the front door and the freezing wind hit my face like a slap. But I didn't shiver. I just felt free. I loaded my suitcase into the trunk of my car, slid into the driver's seat, and closed the door. As I started the engine, I looked back at the house one last time. The lights were still on. Not for long. I woke up on Ainsley's couch the next morning to the sound of my phone buzzing. It was a text from Pax. "No hot water this morning." I stared at the screen, my chest tight. I didn't reply. I needed to let this unfold naturally. Ainsley shuffled into the living room in her bathrobe, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You okay?" she asked, handing me one. "I will be," I said. She sat down across from me, her dark eyes full of concern. Ainsley and I had worked together for 2 years. She knew everything. She'd been the one who told me over and over that I didn't owe my parents my entire paycheck, that I deserved a life of my own. "Did you really cancel everything?" she asked. I nodded. "Good," she said firmly. "They had no right to kick you out, especially on Christmas." I took a sip of coffee and let the warmth settle in my chest. By 2 p.m. on December 26th, the internet went down. I knew because my phone lit up with a call from my mother. I let it go to voicemail, then another call, and another. By the 7th call, I answered. "Sabriel, what's going on?" My mother's voice was high and frantic. "The internet's down, the TV won't turn on, and your father is furious. What did you do?" I kept my voice calm. "I turned off what I was paying for." "You can't do that!" she shrieked. "This is your home." "No, Mom," I said quietly. "It's the place where Dad kicked me out. Remember?" There was silence on the other end, just heavy, ragged breathing. "Your father thinks you're trying to punish us," she finally whispered. I let out a dry laugh. "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just living my life. What bothers you is that I'm no longer living it for you." I hung up before she could respond. The next day, the electricity went out. It was 6 p.m., right when the winter sun disappeared and the cold really started to set in. I imagined them sitting in the dark, the Christmas tree lights dead, the heater silent. My phone rang again. This time, I didn't answer. Instead, I opened my banking app and checked my savings account. $8,400. It wasn't much, but it was mine, and for the first time in 4 years, no one else had a claim to it. December 28th. My phone buzzed with another text from Pax. "Dad's losing it. He's been on the computer all morning trying to get into your accounts." My stomach dropped. I immediately opened my laptop and checked my email. Alert, unusual login attempt from Cleveland, Ohio. Alert, password reset requested for account ending in 7823. 3 failed attempts, all within the last hour. I called Pax. "Where is he right now?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "In the basement," Pax whispered. "He's got Mom's old notebook, the one where she used to write down passwords." Of course, my mother had always been terrible with digital security. She'd written everything down in a little black notebook she kept in the kitchen drawer. "Okay," I said. "Thanks for telling me." I hung up and got to work. I changed every single password, email, bank accounts, credit cards, utilities, even though they were already canceled. I made each password 16 characters long, a random mix of letters, numbers, and symbols. Then, I enabled 2-factor authentication on everything, linked to a new phone number I'd gotten 2 days ago. No more loopholes. By the time I was done, it was nearly 9 p.m. I sat back and exhaled slowly. My father wasn't just angry. He was desperate, and desperate people do dangerous things. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on Ainsley's couch, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped the next morning. December 29th. Another text from Pax. Sis, I think you should know. Dad's been talking to Walter Bishop, his old drinking buddy. I heard them on the phone last night. Dad was saying weird stuff, like, she thinks she's won and I'll make her understand. Walter Bishop. I closed my eyes and felt a cold dread settle in my stomach. Walter was the kind of man who'd been in and out of county jail for petty theft, public intoxication, and assault. He was the reason the whole neighborhood had called the cops during those summer barbecues 5 years ago. He and my father used to drink together on the back porch, complaining about the system and people who didn't know their place. If my father was talking to Walter, this wasn't just about pride anymore. This was about revenge. I sat up and grabbed my phone. Pax, if anything strange happens, lock your door and call me immediately. I'm serious. I will. Be careful, Sabriel. I looked around Ainsley's small apartment. It was cozy, safe. But if my father knew I was here, and he probably did, it wouldn't stay safe for long. I needed a plan. But before I could make one, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was an email from my bank. Alert. Suspicious login attempt detected. Account temporarily locked for your protection. I checked the details. The attempt had come from an IP address in Cleveland, the same neighborhood as my parents' house. My father had tried again, and failed again. I should have felt relief, but all I felt was the cold certainty that this was far from over. I texted Ainsley, who was at work. I think I need to find somewhere else to stay, just for a little while. She responded immediately. Whatever you need. But Sabriel, maybe it's time to call the police. I stared at her message for a long time. Was it really that bad? Was my own father really that far gone? Then I remembered the look in his eyes on Christmas Eve. The way he'd said, "This is my house." Not our house. Not the family's house. His house. Like I was an intruder. Like I'd never belonged there at all. I opened my contacts and scrolled to the non-emergency police line. My finger hovered over the call button. Not yet, I told myself. Not unless he actually tries something. But deep down, I knew. It was only a matter of time. The house I'd called home was crumbling in the dark, and the man who'd raised me was about to become someone I no longer recognized. What would you have done? Would you have stayed and tried to fix it? Or would you have walked away, knowing that some things can't be saved? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you're still with me, thank you, because this is only the beginning. New Year's Eve arrived with freezing rain and the kind of silence that settles over a life in transition. I spent the day at the office, volunteering for overtime while most of my coworkers were home preparing for parties. I didn't mind. Work was easier than thinking. At 6:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with an email notification. Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles. Your vehicle registration address has been updated. I stopped mid-keystroke and read it again. I hadn't requested any address change. My hands went cold. I opened the email and clicked through to the details. The registration address for my 2019 Honda Civic had been changed from Ainsley's apartment, where I'd updated it 3 days ago, back to my parents' house on Maple Street. Someone had accessed my DMV account. I immediately logged in and checked the activity history. The change had been made at 2:34 p.m. that afternoon. From an IP address in Cleveland, my mother. I sat back in my chair, feeling something hot and bitter rise in my throat. My father had tried to break into my bank accounts, and now my mother had gone after my car registration. What were they planning? I grabbed my coat and left the office without clocking out. Ainsley was at her sister's house for New Year's, so I drove alone through the dark, wet streets toward my old neighborhood. When I turned onto Maple Street, my stomach dropped. There it was, my navy blue Honda Civic parked directly in front of my parents' house. I pulled over across the street and sat there, gripping the steering wheel, trying to process what I was seeing. My car. The car I'd paid off myself. The car I'd driven away from that house 6 days ago. I pulled out my phone and called Pax. He answered on the first ring. Sabriel? Is my car parked in front of the house? I asked, my voice shaking. Yeah, he said quietly. Mom's been driving it. She said she needed to go to the grocery store and her car wouldn't start. Did she ask my permission? Silence. Pax? She found your spare key, he whispered. The one you kept in the kitchen junk drawer. She's been using it since the day after you left. I closed my eyes and counted to 10. Then I opened the GPS tracking app on my phone, the one I'd installed 2 years ago in case my car was ever stolen. The map loaded. Little blue dots traced my car's movements over the past 6 days. Grocery store, pharmacy, liquor store. And I zoomed in, my heart sinking. The Hollywood Casino in Toledo. 3 separate trips. My mother had been using my car to go gambling. I'm coming in, I told Pax. Don't tell her I'm here. I hung up, got out of my car, and walked across the street. The house looked even more run down than I remembered. The Christmas lights were dark. The porch light was off. Through the front window, I could see the faint glow of candlelight, still no electricity. I didn't knock. I used my house key, the one I hadn't given back, and walked inside. My mother was sitting at the kitchen table, sorting through a stack of bills by candlelight. She looked up when she heard the door, and her face went pale. Sabriel. Where are my car keys? I asked calmly. She stood up, wrapping her cardigan tighter around herself. Your car was just sitting at that girl's apartment. I needed it. You stole it, I said. You took my spare key without asking, and you've been driving my car for a week. I didn't steal anything, she said, her voice rising defensively. You left the key here, and you weren't using the car. I just borrowed it. You changed my registration address, I said. You accessed my DMV account. How did you get my login information? She looked away. Mom, how? I tried a few of your old passwords, she admitted. I got lucky. Lucky. She called identity theft lucky. I walked past her and up the stairs to my old room. The door was ajar. I pushed it open and looked around. My desk was empty. My bookshelf was half empty. And my laptop, the MacBook Air I'd saved 6 months to buy, was gone. I turned around. My mother was standing in the doorway. Where's my laptop? I asked. She didn't answer. Mom, where is it? I sold it, she said quietly. The room tilted. You what? We needed money, she said, her voice breaking. The electric company wanted $340 just to turn the power back on. And there was a reconnection fee. And your father, he needed... You sold my laptop, I repeated slowly, to pay for utilities that I was paying for until Dad kicked me out. You don't live here anymore, she shouted suddenly. You left. Anything you left behind it's just stuff. It's my stuff, I shouted back. My car, my laptop, my passwords. You don't get to just take them because you need money. She started crying. What were we supposed to do, Sabriel? We have nothing. Your father can't find work. I'm barely making $200 a week. We're going to lose this house. And whose fault is that? I asked. My voice came out colder than I'd ever heard it. I paid your bills for 4 years. I kept this house running, and the night Dad decided I was a burden, you said nothing. I tried. You didn't try hard enough, I said. You stood there and watched him throw me out, and now you're stealing from me. I pulled out my phone. What are you doing? She asked, her eyes widening. Calling the police. Sabriel, no, you can't. I'm your mother. Then you should have acted like one. I dialed 911. My mother grabbed my arm. Please, please, don't do this. They'll arrest me. I'll lose my job. I pulled my arm away. You should have thought about that before you sold my laptop and stole my car. The dispatcher answered. 911, what's your emergency? I need to report a theft, I said, my eyes locked on my mother's. My mother stole my car and sold my personal property without permission. 2 police officers arrived within 15 minutes. I showed them my car registration, my insurance card with my name on it, and the GPS tracking history. I showed them the empty space where my laptop used to be and the receipt I'd kept from when I bought it. My mother tried to explain. She cried. She apologized. But when they asked her for proof of ownership, for any document showing she had permission to use my car or sell my laptop, she had nothing. Ma'am, one of the officers said gently, your daughter has the right to press charges for theft and unauthorized use of a vehicle. But I'm her mother, she whispered. The officer looked at me. "It's your call, miss." I took a breath. "I want my property back, and I want this documented. If she does this again, I want it on record." They wrote up a report. They took photos of my empty desk. They made my mother sign a statement acknowledging that she'd taken the car without permission. Before they left, one of the officers pulled me aside. "You might want to consider getting a restraining order if there's a pattern of harassment or theft." "I'll think about it," I said. I took my car keys from my mother's trembling hand. I didn't hug her. I didn't say goodbye. I just left. As I drove back to Ainsley's apartment, my phone rang. It was Pax. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine. Mom's losing it. She's saying you're trying to destroy the family." I laughed. A dry, hollow sound. "I didn't destroy anything, Pax. They did that themselves." "I know," he said quietly. I wish things were different." Me too. After I hung up, I sat in Ainsley's parking lot for a long time, my hands still gripping the steering wheel. I'd crossed a line tonight. I'd called the police on my own mother, and I didn't regret it.
The
3
people who
days
gave you
later,
life are
on
the same
January
ones who try to
3rd,
erase it.
everything got
Before we
worse.
dive in, I want to know where you
I
watching
was
from.
asleep on
Have you ever
Ainsley's
had to fight for
couch
your
when a
place?
sound woke me. Loud, rhythmic pounding. Someone was at the door. I sat up, my heart racing. The digital clock on the wall read 11:47 p.m. The pounding continued, then a voice. "Sabriel, open this door!" My father. Ainsley stumbled out of her bedroom, her face pale. "Is that—" "Stay back," I said. I grabbed my phone and crept toward the door. Through the peephole, I could see him. His face was red, his eyes wild. He was drunk. "I know you're in there," he shouted. "You think you can just destroy your family and walk away? You think there are no consequences?" "I'm calling the police," I said through the door. "Good!" he shouted. "Call them. Let them hear what kind of daughter you are. Calling the cops on your own mother, treating your parents like criminals." I dialed 911 for the second time in 3 days. "Someone's trying to break into my apartment," I said to the dispatcher. I gave her the address. "It's my father. He's intoxicated and he's threatening me." Ainsley stood behind me, clutching her phone, filming through the peephole in case we needed evidence. The pounding got louder. "You ruined us, Sabriel! We have nothing because of you!" "Sir, you need to leave," Ainsley called through the door. "The police are coming." "I don't care!" he roared. Then came a sound that made my blood run cold. A heavy thud, like he'd thrown his shoulder against the door. Ainsley grabbed my arm. "Sabriel." "It's okay," I said, trying to sound calm. "The door's solid. He can't get in." But my hands were shaking. Sirens wailed in the distance. My father must have heard them too, because the pounding stopped. "This isn't over!" he shouted. Then I heard his footsteps retreating down the hallway. The police arrived 2 minutes later. They found him in the parking lot, sitting on the curb, his head in his hands. They arrested him. Disorderly conduct, trespassing, attempted breaking and entering. I watched from Ainsley's window as they put him in the back of the squad car. He looked up at the building, his eyes searching the windows. For just a second, our eyes met, and I saw something that made my chest tighten. Not anger, not even hatred. Fear. He was afraid. Afraid of losing control. Afraid of becoming irrelevant. Afraid of the fact that his daughter had become stronger than him. But fear doesn't excuse violence, and I wasn't going to let pity trap me. My father was released on bail the next afternoon. $500 posted by Walter Bishop. I knew because Pax texted me. "Dad's back. Uncle Walter picked him up from jail. They've been in the basement talking for hours." Walter Bishop, the man with a criminal record that included assault, burglary, and possession of stolen property. I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach. That night, I stayed late at work, partially to catch up, partially to avoid going back to Ainsley's apartment. I didn't feel safe there anymore, not when my father knew exactly where I was. At 6:30 p.m., I finally packed up my things and headed to the parking garage. It was nearly empty. Most people had gone home hours ago. My car was parked on the second level, near the back. I walked quickly, my keys already in my hand, my other hand clutching my phone. I was 10 feet from my car when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. My father and Walter Bishop were walking toward me. My breath caught in my throat. "We just want to talk," my father said, holding up his hands. But there was something off about his voice, too calm, too controlled. Walter said nothing. He just stood there, arms crossed, blocking the exit. "I don't want to talk to you," I said, backing toward my car. My hand found the pepper spray in my purse. "You owe us that much," my father said, taking a step closer. "After everything you've done." "Everything I've done?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. "You kicked me out. You tried to steal my money. Mom stole my car and sold my laptop. What exactly have I done?" "You called the cops on your own mother," he said. His voice was rising now. "You got me arrested, twice. You're tearing this family apart." "There is no family," I shouted. "There hasn't been for a long time." Walter stepped forward. "You need to show some respect, little girl." "Who the hell are you?" I turned on him. "This is between me and my father. You have no right." "Your father's my friend," Walter said, "and I don't let people disrespect my friends." My father put a hand on Walter's shoulder like he was trying to hold him back, but I saw the look in his eyes. He wasn't trying to stop Walter. He'd brought him here on purpose. My finger found the panic button on my phone, a safety app I'd downloaded after the first arrest. I pressed it. A silent alert went out to 911 along with my GPS location. "You need to leave," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Both of you." "We're not going anywhere until you fix this," my father said. He took another step closer. "You're going to go to the police station and tell them it was all a misunderstanding. You're going to drop the charges." "I'm not doing anything," I said. He reached out and grabbed my shoulder. I jerked back, but his grip was tight. "Let go of me." "Not until you listen." Walter's phone came out. He was recording. "See?" he said to the camera. "She's being aggressive. She's the one causing problems." That's when I heard it. Sirens. My father heard them too. His hand dropped from my shoulder. "What did you do?" he asked. "What I should have done weeks ago," I said. 2 squad cars pulled into the parking garage, lights flashing. 4 officers got out, and one of them I recognized. Officer Jake Morrison. He'd been one of the officers who responded to the incident at Ainsley's apartment. "Sir, step away from her," Officer Morrison said, his hand on his belt. My father's face went pale. "This is my daughter. We were just talking." "With your hand on her shoulder?" Morrison looked at me. "Ma'am, are you all right?" I nodded, though my whole body was shaking. "He grabbed me. I told him to leave and he wouldn't." Another officer, a woman with her hair pulled back in a tight bun, turned to Walter. "And you are?" "Walter Bishop," he said, puffing out his chest. "I'm a witness. This girl has been harassing her father." "Were you recording her without consent?" the officer asked. Walter's smirk faltered. Morrison turned to my father. "Sir, you're currently out on bail with conditions. One of those conditions is no contact with the victim. Do you understand that?" "She's not a victim." "Yes, she is," Morrison said firmly. "And you just violated your bail conditions. Turn around." I watched as they put my father in handcuffs for the second time in a week. This time, there was no fear in his eyes, just cold, bitter hatred. "You're going to regret this, Sabriel," he said as they led him to the squad car. "You think you've won? You'll never be free of this family. Never!" Walter Bishop was escorted off the property. The parking garage security footage was pulled, and I gave my statement, my voice barely above a whisper. When it was over, Officer Morrison walked me to my car. "You did the right thing," he said, "calling for help." I nodded, but I couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. "Is there somewhere safe you can stay tonight?" he asked. "I'll figure it out," I said. He handed me his card. "If anything else happens, call me directly." I drove to a hotel that night, not Ainsley's. Not anywhere my father could find me. I checked in, locked the door, put the chair under the handle, and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. That man in the parking lot, the one who'd grabbed me, threatened me, looked at me with such rage. That wasn't my father anymore. I didn't know who he was. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of legal proceedings and desperate phone calls. My father's bail was revoked. He was being held pending a court hearing. The charges now included assault, stalking, and violation of a protective order. The restraining order I'd requested was granted, 500 feet. He couldn't come near me, my workplace, or anywhere I lived. Walter Bishop was being investigated for conspiracy and harassment, though he'd disappeared after the parking lot incident. No one could find him. And at the house on Maple Street, everything was falling apart. Pax texted me updates. Eviction notice came today. Chess dismit days. Mom's working double shifts, but it's not enough. There's no food in the house. I'm eating ramen and canned soup. The heat's been shut off. It's 34 degrees inside. Every message broke my heart a little more. Not because I regretted my choices, but because Pax didn't deserve this. On January 20th, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Sabriel, it's your mother. I should have hung up, but something in her voice stopped me. What do you want? I asked. I need to ask you something, she said. Her voice was quiet, broken. Can you help your father get out of jail? I closed my eyes. No. Please. She was crying now. He's not a bad man. He's struggling. He made mistakes. He assaulted me, Mom. He stalked me. He brought a criminal to threaten me in a parking garage. He's your father. Where were you? I asked. When he kicked me out on Christmas Eve, where were you? When he grabbed me, where were you? When you stole my car, when you sold my laptop, when you stood by and watched him fall apart, where were you? Silence. If Dad wants to apologize, he can do it himself, I said. Not through you. I hung up. 2 days later, a letter arrived at my new apartment. It had been forwarded from Ainsley's address. The return address was the county jail. I stared at it for a long time before I opened it. The handwriting was shaky, uneven, not the neat, precise script my father used to have. Sabriel, I don't know how to start this. I'm sorry sounds empty after everything I've done. I need to tell you the truth about why I lost my job 3 years ago. It wasn't just an accident. I was drinking on the job. I showed up to the construction site drunk, and I made a mistake that could have gotten someone killed. They fired me on the spot. I told your mother it was an accident because I was ashamed. Every day after that, I watched you go to work. I watched you pay the bills I should have been paying. I watched you become the man of the house while I sat on the couch and drank myself into irrelevance. I hated it. Not you. God. Never you. I hated myself. But it's easier to turn that hate outward, isn't it? Easier to blame you for making me feel small than to admit I made myself small. That night on Christmas Eve, I was drunk. I thought if I pushed you out, I could take back control. I thought I could be the father again. The man. I was wrong. Sitting here in this cell, sober for the first time in 3 years, I see it clearly. I didn't lose you because you left. I lost you the moment I stopped being your father and started being your burden. I know you can't forgive me. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know. You were right. About all of it. You deserved better. You still do. I'm proud of you, Sabriel. I always have been. I just forgot how to show it. Your father, Caspian. I read the letter 3 times. Then I set it down, put my face in my hands, and cried. Not because I forgave him. Not because the letter changed anything, but because it was the first time he'd ever told me the truth. And the truth, even when it comes too late, still matters. He'd finally said the words I'd needed to hear my whole life, but they came from behind bars, written in the shaky hand of a man who'd lost everything. Was it enough? Could words on paper heal years of damage? I didn't know, and I wasn't ready to answer. But the letter changed something. It cracked open a door I thought I'd sealed shut forever. Don't go anywhere, because the real truth is about to be revealed. February turned into March. March into April. The world kept turning, indifferent to the wreckage of one small family in Cleveland, Ohio. I settled into my new apartment, a modest studio on the west side of town, 20 minutes from my office. It had one window that faced east, catching the morning light. I bought a small desk, a second-hand couch, and plants I promised myself I'd keep alive. For the first time in my life, I lived in a space that was entirely mine. No one yelling downstairs, no one demanding I cover their bills, no one making me feel guilty for wanting my own life. It should have felt liberating, and it did most days. But some mornings I woke up with a hollow ache in my chest that I couldn't quite name. My father was still in jail. The court date had been pushed back twice. His public defender said he was looking at 90 days minimum, possibly more. My mother had stopped calling. The last I heard from Pax, she'd picked up extra hours at a grocery store and was barely keeping their heads above water. The eviction had been delayed, but only by 30 days. And Pax was counting down. We met every Saturday at the public library, a neutral space where we could talk without anyone listening. He'd grown taller in the past few months, or maybe he just carried himself differently. Less hunched, less afraid. August 16th, he said, stirring his coffee. That's the day I turn 18. I know, I said. I've already looked at dorm options at Ohio State. His eyes widened. Ohio State? Sabriel, I can't afford— You applied for the full scholarship, didn't you? Yeah, but— And you got it, I said, pulling a folded letter from my purse. I'd intercepted it from the mailbox at our parents' house 2 weeks ago with Pax's permission. Congratulations, little brother. He took the letter with shaking hands and read it, then read it again. When he looked up, his eyes were wet. I got in, he whispered. You got in, I confirmed. Full ride, tuition, room, board. You just need to accept by June 1st. But Mom, she's going to say I can't leave, that she needs me. You're 18, Pax. She can't stop you. He set the letter down carefully, like it might disappear if he wasn't gentle. What if I'm making a mistake? What if she can't survive without me? I reached across the table and took his hand. Listen to me. You are not responsible for saving her. You didn't create this situation. You're just a kid who wants to go to college. But you left, and everything fell apart. No, I said firmly. Everything fell apart because it was already broken. I was just the only one holding it together, and when I let go, the cracks showed. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Do you think Dad will ever get better? I thought about the letter, the shaky handwriting, the confession about his drinking. I don't know, I said honestly, but that's not your burden to carry. What about you? He asked. Are you ever going to talk to him again? I looked out the window at the people passing by on the street. Strangers with their own complicated families, their own stories of hurt and healing. Maybe, I said. Someday, but not until I'm ready, and not until he proves he's actually changed. Pax nodded slowly, like he was memorizing my words. Over the next few months, we planned his escape like a military operation. I helped him fill out the acceptance forms. I paid the $500 dorm deposit. We went shopping for sheets, towels, a mini fridge, everything he'd need. My mother found out in May. Pax called me, his voice tense. She found the acceptance letter. She's saying I'm abandoning her. What did you tell her? That I'm going to college, that I'm not abandoning anyone. But she's crying, Sabriel. She's saying she'll be all alone. She made her choices, Pax. You get to make yours. She asked if you put me up to this. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. Tell her the truth, I said. Tell her I helped you because that's what family is supposed to do. Support each other, not drag each other down. On August 16th, Pax's 18th birthday, I picked him up from the house on Maple Street. He was waiting on the porch with a single black backpack. My mother stood in the doorway, arms crossed, face pale. I didn't get out of the car. I didn't wave. I just waited while Pax walked toward me. He paused at the car door and looked back. I'll call you, Mom. She said nothing. He got in, closed the door, and exhaled shakily. You okay? I asked. Yeah, he said. I'm free. We drove to Ohio State in comfortable silence. When we pulled up to his dorm building, he turned to me with tears in his eyes. Thank you, he said, for not giving up on me. Never, I said. You're the best thing that came out of that house. I helped him carry his things to his room. His roommate hadn't arrived yet, so we had the space to ourselves. Pax stood in the middle of the small room, looking around like he couldn't quite
My name is
believe it
Renata
was
Martinez,
real.
and this is the
You
story of
did
how I
it,
learned that
I
sometimes the
said.
people who gave you
You
life are
got
the same
out.
ones who
He
try to
turned
erase
to
it.
me, and for the first time in months, I saw him smile. Really smile. We both did, he said. On a warm afternoon in mid-May, I received a phone call from Officer Morrison. Your father's being released tomorrow, he said. 90 days served. He completed an in-custody substance abuse program. I thought you should know. My stomach tightened. Is the restraining order still in effect? Yes, 500 feet, but I wanted to give you a heads up in case he tries anything. Thank you, I said. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining my father walking out of that jail, angry and vengeful, looking for me. But the days passed and nothing happened. No calls, no visits, no threats. A week later, Pax texted me. Dad came home. He's different. He's not drinking. He got a job at the hardware store on 5th Street. I stared at the message, unsure how to feel. How's Mom? Stressed. They're packing to move. The eviction's final. They found a studio apartment in East Cleveland. $450 a month. East Cleveland, one of the roughest neighborhoods in the city. I felt a pang of something. Not quite guilt, but close. Are you okay there? I'm fine, just counting down until August. 2 weeks later, I was at the grocery store when I saw her. Mrs. Evelyn Hart, a woman I worked with in the claims department. She was in her 60s, kind, with silver hair and a soft smile. We'd spoken a few times about the restraining order. She'd been the one who witnessed the parking lot incident. Sabrielle, she said, approaching me in the produce section. I need to talk to you. Is everything okay? I saw your father, she said. At the hardware store. I was buying paint supplies and he helped me. He asked about you. My heart sank. What did he say? He asked if there was a way he could contact you, safely, without violating the restraining order. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He gave me this, asked me to give it to you. I took the letter slowly. You don't have to read it, she said gently, but he seemed different, sober, genuine. I thanked her and went home. The letter sat on my kitchen counter for 2 days before I opened it. Sabriel, I know I have no right to write to you. I know the restraining order exists for a reason, but Mrs. Hart offered to pass this along, and I'm hoping you'll read it. I've been out for 3 weeks. I'm 90 days sober. I go to AA meetings every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I got a job at Morrison's Hardware, minimum wage, but it's honest work. Your mother and I are moving to a studio apartment next week. It's small. It's in a rough area. But it's what we can afford, and I'm grateful to have it. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness. I'm not writing to ask you to come back. I'm writing because I owe you the truth. I've spent the past 3 months in therapy. Court-ordered, but it helped. I talked about my drinking, about losing my job, about the shame I felt watching you become everything I wasn't. My therapist said I was projecting my failures onto you, that I punished you for being strong because it reminded me of how weak I'd become. She was right. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to respond. But if you're willing, if there's any part of you that wants to hear me say this in person, I'd like to meet. Somewhere public. Somewhere safe. Not to fix things. Not to ask for anything. Just to say what I should have said on Christmas Eve. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry. And you deserve a father who acts like one. If you're not ready, I understand. I'll be here when you are. Or I won't. Either way, I'll respect your choice. Caspian the First set the letter down and called my therapist. I'd started seeing Dr. Rachel Okoye in February after the parking lot incident. She was a black woman in her 50s with a calm, steady presence that made me feel safe. He wants to meet, I told her, and I don't know if I should. What does your gut tell you? She asked. That I'm curious, I admitted, but also terrified. Of what? That he'll disappoint me again. That he'll say the right things, but nothing will actually change. And if that happens, I thought about it. Then I'll leave, and I'll know I gave him a chance. Dr. Okoye was quiet for a moment. Then she said, You don't owe him anything, Sabriel. But if you want closure, real closure, sometimes you have to face the person who hurt you. What if I'm not strong enough? You walked away from an entire life to protect yourself, she said. You're stronger than you think. I sat with that for a long time. Then I called Officer Morrison and asked about meeting my father with police supervision at a neutral location. He suggested the public library. July 12th. The public library on Lorraine Avenue. I arrived 15 minutes early. Officer Morrison was already there, sitting at a table near the entrance. He nodded when he saw me. "Private study room is ready," he said. "I'll be right outside the door. If you need me, just raise your voice." "Thank you," I said. My father arrived exactly on time. He looked different, thinner, older. His hair was graying at the temples. He wore a blue work shirt with Morrison's hardware embroidered on the pocket. He saw me and stopped. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. Then he walked toward the study room and I followed. My mother was with him. I hadn't expected that. She looked smaller than I remembered, worn down. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and her eyes were red-rimmed, like she'd been crying recently. We sat down across from each other. Officer Morrison closed the door but stood just outside the glass window. The silence was unbearable. Finally, my father spoke. "I don't know how to start," he said. His voice was hoarse. "I've practiced this 100 times, and now that you're here, I don't know what to say." "Try, I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "God, Sabriel, I'm so sorry. For everything. For kicking you out. For grabbing you. For drinking myself into a person you couldn't recognize." I waited. "But I know sorry isn't enough," he continued. "I know I destroyed something that can't be fixed. I needed you to hear me say it. In person. Not in a letter." My mother reached for my hand across the table. I pulled it back. "Can you forgive me?" she whispered. "Can you forgive us?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. "I don't know," I said honestly. "You stood by while he tore me apart. You stole from me. You made me feel like I was the problem when I was the only one keeping that house from collapsing." "I was scared," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I was weak. I thought if I stayed quiet, if I didn't rock the boat, things would get better. But they didn't. They got worse, and I let it happen." "You did," I said, "and that makes you just as responsible." She nodded, sobbing. I turned to my father. "Do you understand what you took from me? Not just money, not just peace. You took 4 years of my life. 4 years where I put my dreams on hold to keep you afloat." "I know," he said. His voice broke. "I know, and I hate myself for it." "Hating yourself doesn't fix it," I said. "What are you actually doing to change?" He pulled out a small white chip from his pocket. 90 days sober. I'm going to meetings. I'm working. I'm seeing a therapist." "For how long?" I asked. "How long until you decide it's too hard and you go back to blaming everyone else?" "I don't know," he said, and that honesty, that raw, painful honesty, hit me harder than any apology. "I don't know if I can stay sober forever," he continued. "I don't know if I can be the father you deserve, but I'm trying. Every single day, I'm trying." I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of 4 years pressing down on me. "I can't come back," I said. "I can't be part of your lives the way I was before. It almost destroyed me." "We're not asking you to," my father said quickly. "We're just asking if someday, maybe, you could let us be part of yours, even just a little." I thought about Pax, about his graduation someday, about birthdays and holidays and all the milestones that would come. "Pax is going to need family," I said slowly. "When he graduates, when he gets his first job, when he gets married someday, he's going to want you there." My mother's face lit up with hope. "So here's what I'm offering," I said. "You can be there for those moments. You can sit in the audience. You can celebrate with him. But you don't get to talk to me. You don't get to ask me for anything. You exist in his life, not mine." "That's more than we deserve," my father said. "Yes," I agreed. "It is." My mother reached across the table again. This time, I let her take my hand. "Thank you," she whispered. I pulled my hand back gently. "Don't thank me. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for Pax, and for myself, because I need to know I tried." I stood up. "If you drink again, if you threaten me again, if you cross a single boundary, this is over, permanently." "Understood," my father said, standing as well. I walked to the door, then paused. "For what it's worth," I said without turning around, "I hope you make it. I hope you become the man you're trying to be." "I hope so too," he said quietly. I left without looking back. December, 18 months after I walked out of that house with a suitcase and a heart full of quiet determination. I'm 26 now. I was promoted to senior associate at the insurance company. I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment, one room for me, one for Pax when he comes home on breaks. I'm engaged to Andrew, a man I met at a community cooking class. He's patient and kind and has never once made me feel like I owe him anything. Pax is thriving. He's a sophomore at Ohio State, majoring in business. He works part-time at the campus library. He comes home for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and every time I see him, he looks lighter, freer. He still texts our mother once a week, short messages. "I'm doing fine." "Classes are good." He's kinder than I am, but that's okay. We each heal in our own way. My father has been sober for 20 months. He was promoted to assistant manager at the hardware store. He and my mother are still in that studio apartment in East Cleveland, but they're making it work. We don't talk, not directly, but twice a year. On my birthday and Christmas, I receive a card in the mail. Short messages. "Proud of you. Hope you're well." I don't respond, but I keep the cards in a drawer. Tonight, Christmas Eve, I'm sitting by my Christmas tree with Pax. We're drinking hot chocolate and watching old movies, and for the first time in years, the holiday doesn't feel heavy. My phone buzzes, a text from an unknown number. I open it. "Merry Christmas, Sabriel. 20 months sober today. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. Dad." I stare at the message for a long time. Then I type a response. "Merry Christmas." 2 words. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation. Just acknowledgement. I hit send. Pax glances at me. "Was that him?" "Yeah," I say. "You okay?" I think about it. About the girl I was 2 years ago, trapped in a house that was killing her slowly. About the woman I am now, sitting in a home I built with my own hands. "Yeah," I say. "I'm okay." And I mean it. Some families are born from blood, some are chosen, and some are rebuilt from the ruins of what they used to be. Mine is all 3. I didn't get the reconciliation movie ending where everyone hugs and cries and everything is magically fixed. I got something better. I got boundaries. I got freedom. I got the chance to build a life where I'm not constantly on fire, trying to keep everyone else warm. My father is trying to change. Maybe he'll succeed. Maybe he won't. But that's his journey, not mine. My mother is learning to stand on her own. Slowly. Painfully. But she's learning. And me? I'm learning that love doesn't mean sacrifice. That family doesn't mean surrender. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who are drowning and save yourself instead. Pax looks at me and smiles. "What are you thinking about?" "How far we've come," I say. "Yeah," he says softly. "We really have." Outside, snow is starting to fall. The city lights twinkle through my window, and for the first time in my life, Christmas feels peaceful. Not perfect, but peaceful. And that's enough. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. To everyone out there who's ever felt trapped by family obligation, who's ever been told they're selfish for wanting their own life, who's ever had to choose between their survival and someone else's comfort. You are not wrong. You are not cruel. You are not a bad person. You have the right to protect yourself, even from the people you love, especially from the people you love. Drop a comment below if this resonated with you. Share your city so I can see how far this story has traveled. And if you're still fighting your way out, know this: freedom is possible. It's hard, it's painful, but it's possible, and you deserve it.